Hey there, this is Mr. Icarus, and welcome to yet another edition of the Icarus Report. That's right, we're doing it again, dammit. We're recapping the last week or so in interesting video news. Well, interesting to me, at the very least. And at the top of the agenda this week, Sonic returns via his 25th anniversary celebrations. Now, I don't know if you caught the 25th anniversary celebration stuff for Sonic. They did a live stream. It included some top shelf cringe.
Sonic Heroes! Watch right here.
But aside from that, we also got two new Sonic games rising from the ashes. We got Sonic Mania and Sonic Project. Now, talking about the first one, Sonic Mania, that looks like the game that I've been dreaming of for Sega to make for years upon years upon years. As a fan of Sonic 1, Sonic 2, and then kind of falling off ever so slightly for the rest of it, I've just been really desperate for a game that harkens back to those original games, that gives me that same kind of feeling. It looks beautiful, it sounds beautiful, the animations look silky smooth, and I'm hoping against hope that the Sonic cycle does not apply to this one. If you don't know about the Sonic cycle, usually it's first info on a new Sonic game, there's no of those extra annoying friends, it just keeps it to the basics like Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and your hopes get up a little bit, everyone starts to get optimistic. And as the cycle continues and more details emerge, you start to get more images of more of Sonic's friends and gimmicks, and you start to waver ever so slightly. But with Sonic Mania, something tells me, against all logic, against all reason, that this could be the one that I really, really want. When it comes to Sonic Project, however, it basically looks like Sonic Generations 2, but with some kind of grimdark future robot apocalypse slant, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I did enjoy Sonic Generations. Most of all, I enjoyed the classic Sonic levels. The modern ones didn't really do all that much for me, but I'm thinking that one's gonna be more susceptible to the Sonic cycle than Sonic Mania. Just give it a little time, wait for those extra trailers to come out, that extra gameplay, and you're gonna see those gimmicks rising, you're gonna see the friends being included. To be honest, they weren't that much of a problem in Sonic Generations, they were just used as, means to an end. They were mostly NPCs. But, you know what, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that they don't decide to take it any further with Generations 2 or whatever they eventually end up calling it. I'm just hoping this Sonic cycle does not end in disappointment. And that's the thing that Sonic fans have been having to deal with over and over and over for years upon years upon years. And Sonic Generations shook that ever so slightly. But for Sonic Mania, that's what I'm pinning my hopes on. I'm really, really happy with the gameplay that's come out so far. It looks like an absolute joy to play, and I could not be more optimistic to get my hands on that personally. Next on the list, the Nintendo NX rumored to be portable. Well, this is certainly an interesting turn of events when it comes to what Nintendo were planning next in terms of a successor to the Wii U. Portable was certainly a phrase that wasn't at the forefront of my mind, but here we are nonetheless, and this comes from Eurogamer discovering that there will be an NVIDIA Tegra mobile gaming chip in the NX itself, which leads to a lot of speculation. It's going to be a portable gaming device that can also be plugged back into the TV for couch gaming. Now, the Tegra device that they're using, it's also been used in the NVIDIA Shield, it's also been used in the Razer Edge Gaming Pro tablet, and they do work rather well, and considering that Nintendo don't really put much preference towards graphically intensive video gaming, they're very much a generation behind in that regard. This could hold up quite well in a mobile device. There's a slew of other possible details as well. Detachable controllers, the fact that it runs on a cartridge system as opposed to disc. There's just, the rumor mill is ablaze right now. There's a lot of speculation, and I'm a little bit 50-50 on the prospect of it, to be honest, because moving into the portable arena with your next big console doesn't really sound like a great move to me, considering they've already got the Nintendo 3DS and the new 3DS. Ideally, they should be pushing the new 3DS, adding new titles to that, of which there are precious few at the moment. And the NX itself, as far as I can tell, it's only got, 5 confirmed titles. There's Zelda Breath of the Wind, Dragon Quest XI, I think. They've got Project Sonic coming to it. They've got Just Dance, which I don't really give a toss about, and Pikmin 4, which is in development. But we'll see how the delays pan out for that one. It's going to be very interesting for the future of Nintendo. They're currently riding high on a wave of success after the shares shot right up with the launch of Pokemon Go, but we're going to see what the Nintendo NX does to those share prices and the future of Nintendo in general. It's going to be weird. It's going to be interesting. It could be an absolutely glorious blazing mess, but for me, it feels like they're building sandcastles on the beach while the tide is coming in. And you've got Microsoft and Sony. You know what they're building? They're building oil rigs. They're building things that can withstand the future, that can sit on the ever-changing seas. It's a laboured metaphor, I'll admit, but Nintendo are going to have to pull something special out. They've made a statement that they're not going to be judged by the same parameters as the big console producers here. They're going to stand out on their own, and they're going to have to do something special. And you know what they could really do to bolster their chances, to add a bit of concrete to that sandcastle they're building? Freaking games. Announce more games. That's what we want to play on your console. Video games. Announce the goddamn games, Nintendo. But anyway, I'm going to have to calm down now. We've got a little bit more news. And I was going to have a little bit of a brief segment on Kojima Productions and their announcement of the logo. They had a logo movie, of all things, you know, big whoop and all that. But I just find it kind of funny that Kojima Productions so far, everything that they've put out is all this pre-rendered hype stuff. They've just put out these trailers. And they seem to be entirely subsisting right now on sales of merchandise, because not only have they been putting out these trailers, they've got that very intriguing trailer for Death Stranding that came out at E3, but they've been selling shirts, they've been selling hats, posters, friggin' placemats for all I know, and they're gonna start selling figurines. Figurines of what, you may ask? Is it Norman Reedus and his funky fetus bollock naked in the sand? No! It's Ludens, the mascot, the big chunky skull mask suit-wearing guy that they've got in the trailer, in the logo trailer, and you know what? They better make some good games, that's all I'm gonna say, because can you imagine the buyer's remorse in the future if it turns out that Kojima has lost it? He's absolutely lost his spark. Outside of Metal Gear, he ain't got shit, and Death Stranding turns out to be a big steaming pile of it. Just a hypothetical thing to keep in mind, you know. You don't want to be too much of a raging fanboy, but yeah, that's just something that I wanted to briefly touch on before I moved on to what seems to be a weekly thing now. We've got even more Pokemon Go madness. So just to give this first one a little bit of context, when you first boot up Pokemon Go, there's a disclaimer on the loading screen that essentially states be aware of your surroundings. And this is naturally because when you've got both eyes fixated on a smartphone screen, it's hard to see things coming. It's hard to avoid potential hazards. Now, with that in mind, 2 Canadian teenagers were so utterly absorbed in the act of hunting Pokemon that not only were they completely unaware of their surroundings, they also seemed to be completely unaware of their geographical location in the world, because while they thought they were playing in Alberta, Canada, they apparently managed to cross over illegally into the United States and ended up in Minnesota. They were completely unaware of this at the time, but were very aware of it by the time the US Border Patrol found them and notified them that they'd done goofed. Now, I kind of feel for the US Border Patrol agency. How surreal must that situation be? You know, you spend all day, you know, keeping an eye on your country's borders, you know, for dodgy operations, you know, maybe drug dealers smuggling across the lines, and then you run into these 2 doofuses playing friggin' Pokemon Go in the forest. But in all honesty, that's probably the most mellow Pokemon Go story I've got for you this week, because in Las Vegas, a bunch of Pokemon hunters ended up in a shootout after an attempted robbery. I can only imagine that the 2 armed robbers involved in this saw a bunch of people standing around with expensive smartphones, and the one thing running through their minds was easy pickings. Easy pickings. But you know what they didn't get right? They didn't bank on the fact that one of those hunters would be packing more than Pokeballs, baby, because they had a gun of their own and they knew how to use it, resulting in a shootout. Why did the Pokemon hunter have a gun? Clearly because if you cap a Pokemon in the ass, it's easier to capture. But yeah, thankfully nobody died. Bullets did end up in various bits of anatomy, but thankfully it was not life-threatening. And at this point, it's a minor miracle that I haven't come across anything where a Pokemon Go player has legit died, kicked the bucket, ceased to be. And this is magnified by the fact that in Sydney, there was a stampede of what looked like hundreds of people after they caught wind of a rare Porygon in the vicinity, and that just caused the average IQ of the area to just plummet drastically. People were in the damn street, traffic was being blocked, and that's not even the first instance of this kind of thing happening. In New York Central Park, a Vaporeon turned up, there was crowds of people running across the friggin' road, and you know what? I wish this was the dumbest story for me. It isn't. Nah, this next one is particularly dumb for me because it involves the actions of an individual acting independently. And this young woman is playing Pokemon Go on her own in a cemetery, and that, first off, sounds inherently dodgy. You're playing Pokemon Go on your own in a cemetery. What are you doing? You capturing ghost types? You harvesting the souls of the freshly dead just to fuel your raging Pokemon addiction? No, it goes further than that. She thinks, you know what, I'm not catching as many Pokemon as I'd like here. I'm going to have to find a method to increase my chances. Does she buy a lure module or something for the nearest Pokestop? No. Does she buy incense so the Pokemon will come to her? No. You know what she decides to do? She decides to climb a tree in the middle of a cemetery while playing Pokemon Go, and then proceeds to get stuck up this tree in a cemetery while playing Pokemon Go. So, with no one else around to help, she ends up calling emergency rescue services. So a big old fire truck comes over with the ladder, having to rescue this dumb young woman playing Pokemon Go, stuck up a tree in a cemetery. Naturally, she decides not to give her name out to the news agencies because obviously you don't want the entire world knowing that you're a monumental dumbass. I'm still trying to figure out the reason for climbing a tree. It's kind of stated in the news articles that I've read that she was just trying to catch Pokemon. There weren't any other surrounding circumstances. I could maybe understand the reasoning ever so slightly if she wanted to boost her cell phone signal, but that's never mentioned once. I just come to the inescapable conclusion that she's a raging idiot. But the inescapable conclusion of all this is that humanity is pretty much doomed by way of Pokemon Go. I mean, sure, it's got this wonderful capacity to bring people together socially, but there's something to be said for the relative IQ of these people that are being brought together. They're making some really, really stupid decisions, and it's only a matter of time before things go horribly, horribly wrong. But fear not. I will be there to cover the inevitable fallout because we have yet to reach the bottom of this rabbit hole. It's going to continue. I'm going to keep seeking out stupid Pokemon Go stories along with the other news items for the Icarus report, and all I can say is I hope you've enjoyed it. Feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Be sure to share this video if you think others will find it interesting, and I'll see you next time. This has been Mr. Icarus. Thank you very much for watching. Icarus out.